wanderer, a life adventurer, said he's a secret philosopher. He's a wandering wanderer. Hello there once again, fellow peregrinos. Welcome to episode 21 of El Camino de Santiago Pilgrims podcast, where we talk about planning, preparation and packing for walking the road to Santiago, as well as tips, tricks and hacks to make your journey along the way a lot more enjoyable. As always, we want to put more bounce in your boots, more K's in your days, take the grim out of the pilgrimage. And yes, it's cheesy, but it's true. To that end, we have today with us a guest host, a lovely lady from our very first episode. Tiera St Claire from Hawaii is going to be taking the reins as guest host this episode and asking me questions about my most recent Camino Portuguese. Now, as if the Camino were like karate and they gave out belts, Tiera, you would definitely have the black belt.
I'm a black belt in Camino. That's good. I like that.
Seven Camino, 7-time pilgrim, correct?
Actually, 10 now.
What? 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done two a year the last 2 years.
Right. Okay. So there you have it. I don't know if there's anything above black belt. Just you can have 2 black belts. You can have 2.
I'll go, or I could have a gold belt maybe.
A gold belt, or you have a black belt, but you put one around your head like a superhero.
There we go.
It's a good idea.
So yeah, I'd love to hear about your Camino. I know you've just done the Portuguese. Have you done any more? Have you done it other times as well?
I have, and the Portuguese is my most recent. And yeah, I mean, we could only squeeze in 6 days on this one. We only had a week that we could do our Camino in, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to go back and repeat a few bits and a bit more research. So that's what we did.
Nice.
My wife and I.
Yeah. And what made you choose to go on the Portuguese this time?
Well, Rachel and I, we live by the sea. We're in Tenerife, which is one of the Canary Islands, and we miss greenery, we miss forest, and we don't have a lot of that here. It's very arid, it's very barren. So we were hooked in by the Camino Portuguese and the promise of walking through forests and fields and alongside rivers and with waterfalls singing to us all the way. And that's exactly what we got.
Nice. So a different topography than you have at home.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And where did you begin?
So this time we began in, I think it was, we started in Valencia, which is just inside the Spanish border, so the Portuguese border. Pardon, sorry. Always got Spanish running around in my head as well. And we took from there a train we went from Porto, we flew into Porto, and we took a train from Porto to Valencia. Now, anyone that does only have a week and they are interested is to start in the same place. All you do is you have to go to the Campania station in Porto. There's 2 big train stations in Porto. There's São Bento and there's Campania. So you probably, if you get to the airport, you'll go into São Bento station from there, and then you get a train across town to Campania, and then that goes direct to Valencia.
Excellent.
And you can get walking from there if you've got a week.
That's excellent. That's some really good practical advice right there. And are there lots of albergues on the Portuguese? Like if they start, but they want to actually start the next day, there's an albergue to stay at right there. That's easy to find.
It depends. If you start in Lisbon, it's a very, very tough walk, and you're often doing 30k days between albergues and often seeing nothing between. So that's tough. So if you are a first-time pilgrim, I don't recommend starting in Lisbon. However, from Porto, it's really well catered for. and you do find a lot of provisions, a lot of albergues, and you find that Camino spirit alive as soon as you start walking from Porto.
Okay, so you'd really recommend starting from Porto rather than Lisbon for first-time people, unless they're really
100%,
hardcore.
100%.
Yeah,
That is tough. That is a tough walk from Lisbon.
yeah,
If
especially
I'm
just starting out.
if I'm being honest with you, didn't enjoy it so much from Lisbon. There's a lot of roadside walking as well. Literally,
Uh-huh.
you are walking along the road and you see lorries coming at you, and you have to jump
Oh
into mud.
boy.
And I don't think it's been very well thought out, but it's still young. It's still relatively young compared to the rest of the Camino. So hopefully they'll find some new tracks to walk.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's definitely the least favorite type of walking on the Camino is
It
when you're
is,
right
isn't
by
it?
the road and
Yeah.
lorries and cars and all of that's going on. That's not really why we do it.
Not at all.
And so you did a week, and did you get blisters?
Good question. Do you know what, Tiera? I know we cover this topic a lot because it's something that I suffered from really, really badly in all my other Caminos. But listening to the advice that I've heard from our fellow pilgrims on this podcast and other comments that I've read, I listened to all of it and I did it by the book this time. I didn't wear boots for the first time. I wore some Nike trail runners,
Uh-huh.
and they were amazing. Leather ones, waterproof, lovely, lovely bit of kit. And I made sure religiously that I had a clean pair of socks every day. And I did the Vaseline on the feet thing, which I'd never done before. I mean,
Mhm.
I knew I was supposed to do that, but in all honesty, I'm so keen and eager to get on the road in the morning,
I
so
know.
excited to get on the road that I just don't. I think, no, I'll be okay. So I have always been a little bit complacent, stupidly. This time
Yeah.
I did everything I was supposed to do, and it was blissful. No blisters.
Nice.
And that's the first time that's ever happened for me, and my wife too. So I
Excellent.
definitely recommend clean socks, blisters, not boots, trail runners. Unless you're doing some kind of expedition, Everest, something like that, something wild, something, extreme. I don't know if boots are really necessary on the Camino. A good pair of breathable trail runners, and I think that'll see you right.
I agree. I've done it many times actually in hiking sandals, and a couple of times also in trail runners. And the other thing, I just make sure they have a really good grippy sole, so that if
Mm.
I'm going down hills, especially with those rocks and that are slippery, I like to feel like I have some grip on the sole of my shoe too.
Yeah, all that definitely helps and comes in handy, and that's where sometimes when your feet are moving around a lot as well, um, inside your footwear, that can be a cause of the blisters as well. The friction. So for that thing, it would help as well.
Excellent. So I'd love to hear about your experience in the albergues in the Portugal. On the Francés, which of course I've done each time, though a little bit of the Norte. There's so many albergues, and they range from the very very simple by donation to the nice hotel suite and almost everything in between. Are there lots of options like that on the Portuguese? And are there big rooms, small rooms, snoring? Do you have
Well,
any?
yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the in Portugal, the albergs are mostly all year round,
Cool.
which is really handy because I've
Yeah.
done a few winters, and like I said, very well catered for. The sizes vary from place to place, as always, just like on the Camino Francés. So
Hmm.
it's very similar in that respect. They're a bit cheaper now in They're still only five
Really?
euros in Portugal. The public ones are still only like €5 in
Right.
Galicia. They're up to €8 most of them now, and very clean. But they're cold. They're very very cold. The Portuguese ones.
Oh,
Now I don't know if they have heating and they don't switch it on, or they just don't have heating, but I've said before in the podcast to our other interviewees that it can be very cold. So I've laid in bed wearing every single piece of clothing I have with me: hat, scarf, gloves, snood, as well as 4 or 5 blankets that I managed to procure from other beds that weren't being used. And in terms of snoring, that can happen anywhere,
Anytime.
as you're
Yeah.
well aware. I think one of the biggest things, like I've said on, I think it was the last 2 episodes, was just being conscious of your own personal hygiene
Yeah.
when you're staying in the public albergs. Like I said before, there was 2 guys, and don't get me wrong, I really like these guys, and I was chatting to them, and I love chatting to people around the Albergs and just getting to know people's
Mm-hmm.
stories, if I can, reasons they're walking it. I'm nosy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I shouldn't be so nosy, but I do ask questions. I am nosy, but I mean, so I was chatting to these 2 fellas, but they turned up late, they've walked a long way, and they've just not had a shower, and honestly, their body odor was making me keel over nearly. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's not like you even had to get close to them. It was just there in your throat kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
So as much as the snoring, which can't be helped, that's just one of those things, but the personal hygiene can be helped. So I think just be conscious really of that. And that for me was, I think, the thing I noticed more than anything this time, and I don't know why I didn't notice it so much before.
Interesting.
Maybe it's because I'm with my wife, and I know my wife will notice these things.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So that just because people don't have a shower doesn't make them bad people, but I just do think it will make you more considerate. So that would be
Yeah,
my only
exactly.
thing really. And in terms of, we mentioned it before, the sleeping. If you do get there and you're one of the first to arrive, if you are, great. It's not a race, but if you do get to choose, I think you mentioned it in the first one, pick a top bunk, because there's
Mm-hmm.
more air up there.
Mm-hmm.
If you can see a space by a window, even better.
Mm-hmm.
Away from entry and exit points or any stairs. And
Mm-hmm.
in this day and age, I know a lot of people are looking to charge their phones. So if you can score a bed by a plug socket, then everyone's a winner, baby.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And I've actually found that snoring is um, less loud and overbearing in rooms with more people. Like I think a lot of people think that the albergues with less people in them are better, but it's actually louder because it's a smaller enclosed space.
And when it's a bit more silent, you can hear a pin drop, can't you?
Yeah, that's right.
And when
That's
when
right.
it's silent like that, you can hear the nostril hairs kind of trembling, can't you? So it's it's a funny experience down in the Albergs, and I wonder yourself what your opinion is, because you do read on a lot of Camino forums people saying, you're not a real pilgrim if you don't stay in the Albergs. I don't agree with that. I just wonder what your thoughts are on it.
I don't agree with it at all, actually. From when we did that first one to now, it's quite something. I've met people who are staying in four-star hotels and having their luggage. They don't even have a pack. They just have their luggage shipped to the next one each day, and it's easy. And I have seen myself getting a little judgmental and gosh, but the truth is, what I really think is that if you're on the pilgrim, if you're on the Camino, you are a pilgrim, and it's going to impact you. It may not impact you um, in the way like it does for some of us. It's really quite life changing, and the hardship or the challenges become part of the strengthening. But what I see is the Camino has magic to it, and it doesn't matter how you're doing it. And I'd rather people who wouldn't otherwise do it in a way that they can and still get the experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I was in the Houses of Parliament, I would go yes to that. Very, very agree.
Hmm.
I think the only thing I would say is as well is that this time, for example, I had a couple of terrible nights sleep the first 2 nights I stayed in the Albergs. I always try to stay in the public albergs as much as possible, because
Me too.
then you maximize contact with your fellow pilgrims,
Exactly.
and that only enriches and enhances your experience. And but because I had 2 really terrible nights sleep, I said to Rachel, let's get a hotel, for a night. We got a hotel
Hmm.
one night, and I slept really well, and I'm definitely a better person when I've had a good night's sleep. There's no doubt about that. I don't like myself when I'm tired and ratty, so I always try to make sure I sleep as good as possible. And what is the point I'm trying to make here? I'm waffling, aren't I? No, the point I'm trying to make is that when we stayed in the hotels, I actually missed the albergues, the public albergues. I missed the camaraderie. I missed the chats. I missed getting to know people. I missed talking about the Camino. Don't get me wrong, I love spending time with my wife, but she misses that too. And so I think try to stay in the public albergues when you can. But if you do feel tired, or you do feel like, you just need some time to yourself tonight or whenever, then it's not a crime to go and stay in a hotel or a 4-star or a 5-star, whatever. Sometimes that, the deprivation that the Camino imposes on you amplifies the feeling of pleasure you get from staying in those hotels when you do go and stay there. I remember when after I hadn't slept well and I just plonked myself down on this bed. We were in Ponferrada this time, and I just plonked myself down on the bed. I was like, I feel great, just laying in that bed and a nice hot shower. That can be part of the reward for yourself. So it's not a crime to mix and match it. But after 2 nights in hotels, I did say to Rachel, I want to stand in Albergue tonight. I miss my fellow pilgrims. I miss the chats. And I miss talking to the hospitaleros and hospitaleras. And I think mixing it up can be a really good thing.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I like mostly staying in the public albergues with all the people. And when I do stay, in a hotel, I'll take 3 baths. I'll take a bath and then another and then another.
It's funny you say that, because I never ever take baths ever.
Well, or a shower, whichever one.
No. But you've got a point though. You've got a point, because what's the first thing I did after walking 25k? I filled that bathtub up with hot water, and I just lowered my body in there. And what was really interesting was just seeing how the color of the water turned darker with every inch of my body that fell into that water. I was like, wow, I am dirty. That's quite rewarding as well. Like, I'll just clean myself,
So having done the Camino a number of times, what would you say? What are some things that you wouldn't want to be without in your kit, and what have you found that a lot of people bring but you don't find essential?
Well, I think I've dedicated myself to bringing pegs with me. I mean, I'm not a very domesticated person at all, but I've been on previous Caminos where I've come to the washing line in the morning and my clothes are on the floor. So I've mentioned that one before, pegs, but I'm definitely this time Vaseline. I've seen how important Vaseline is for your feet. But my wife came up with a very novel and great idea, and she took a pack of Ziploc bags. And I know this doesn't sound revolutionary at all, but I've never done that before. And it came in so handy for preparing some snacks along the way. And, in the morning or at night or whatever, whenever we had time to do it, we would prepare our snacks. Normally when we finished walking for the day, we'd go to a supermarket, get the provisions for the next day, know what we need, buy some rolls so we don't have to carry a whole loaf of bread with us.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Some pate as well, so you don't have to carry any packaging with you. Spread that baby out in the rolls, stick it in a Ziploc bag, and then you're all sorted for the next day. Again, sometimes these little things just make it, make your journey along the way a lot easier. So yeah, I think those things, Ziploc bags, I've got down. And, my first Camino, I took a lot of ridiculous stuff with me, like a tent. The tent was completely unnecessary. Spanish phrase book, unnecessary. And again, I would also say, I know people will probably hate me for this, but mobile phones, take them, but keep them switched off. And that's my own philosophy. And you can agree or disagree with that, but I will always keep mine off and switched off. And that doesn't make me right. That's just the way I do it. And Yeah, and also a travel towel. Take in your quick drying travel towel because that's one thing you're definitely going to want to learn to use. So those are the things I've found kind of, shall we say, imperative.
Hmm. And is there something that you tend to bring but you really don't use?
Um, you know what? I have brought with me on previous Caminos like fake wallets with like expired bank cards. So if I ever did get into a spot of bother, I would just hand that over, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I was being a little bit cautious there. So what I've got now is I've got one of these what they call them magic belts. Don't know if you know what they are.
Yeah.
And they expand with whatever to the size of whatever you put on it. So it's like the width of two fingers. But if you've got like a passport or a wallet, it will expand to the size of your passport and wallet, and you just put it in, you put it under your clothing basically, so no one can see it's there, kind of thing. So, and I've taken pen knives with me before as well, and that was a bit silly. I didn't really ever use a pen knife, so yeah, duct tape for blisters maybe, but you can buy that along the way if and when you need it. So stuff like
Yeah,
that, really.
you can get everything along the way pretty much, can't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've gone from one extreme to the other. My first Camino, I over prepared, took way too much. I have no idea how much my backpack weighed, but it was ridiculous. And this time I had it down to, at its lightest, 6 kilograms.
Nice.
And it was lovely walking with so, just so little on my back.
Yeah, then it becomes about the joy of the walk rather than the
Ah, absolutely. And thanks to my fellow peregrinos on this podcast for helping me with that, because listening to some of the ideas, some didn't take backpacks. Sorry, some didn't backpacks. What am I talking about? Some didn't take sleeping bags and stuff like that. So I was thinking, what can I actually do without? So, my philosophy was to take three of most things. Three t-shirts, three underwear, three socks, and that served me this time.
Excellent. So, what is your favorite town and your favorite albergue? I'm curious on the Francés as well as on the Portuguese.
Right. Well, on the Frances, I'm gonna have to say Grañón,
Okay,
and that's in La Rioja. You remember the night that you and I spent there? I think
I
that's where I
do.
first met you. I mean, it was like a medieval banquet. That's the only way I can think of it. I don't know how there was maybe 40 or 50 of us squeezed into that little room
Yeah.
by the kitchen. Everyone, all hands on deck to prepare the table, to cook, to wash up. The pilgrim blessing afterwards. The deep and meaning falls across the table. The United Nations of pilgrims sat around the table. That was a magical night, and it was donativo as well. So you leave as much as you can. It's always nice to leave a tip there as well. The old man coming into the room that was 100 years old, saying, you're all welcome to stay for as long as you want. The door is always open. This is where the Camino magic happens, and this is why
Hmm.
sometimes the most Spartan, rustic, basic places have the most magic, because they might not have a lot of comfort, but they have a lot of love and a lot of camaraderie and a lot of spirit, and that's where the magic happens. So that's on the Camino Frances. I will always remember that place. Magical night. And then I would talk about the Frances. Now, if I was talking about a public one, the Portuguese, the public one, I would say there's a place called Portela, and there's a very basic public albergue again, but very clean, very spacious. It's at the top of a horrible hill. So when you get to that hill, you've had enough.
Yeah.
It is a godsend. You're like, right, I'm staying there. £5, €5, sorry, for the night, and yeah, and it's very clean. No, I don't remember there being heating, but it was a really, really nice place to stay. And the hospitalero, he orders you pizza. There's no provisions around, but he orders you pizzas from
Oh,
like a nearby, takeaway place. So you get pizzas delivered as well. And obviously, when you've got the chronic pilgrim hunger, you tear into your pizza. and really enjoyed that place as well. So that's Casa de la Recoleta, and that's in Portela. Now, at the other end of the scale, Rachel and I, my wife, we stayed in a place called Casa do Poco in Valencia, which is just before you cross the Spanish border. And it is like a stately home. It's beautiful. It's like going from economy to first class on a Concorde or a flight to Australia or whatever. And yeah, amazing, just amazing. And they've got like velveted walls, like these chunky wooden staircases, the views across the border. You can see right across this really broad river, the riverbanks on the Spanish side, and on the Portuguese side you can see the cathedral across the border. The mist on the river, it's just a magical place. And to top it off, the owners are really, really lovely, and they cannot do it enough for you. We paid about €100 for the night, but that was really because it was our only option to stay. So Casa do Poco, the public one in Gragnon on the Camino Francés, and Casa de la Recoleta in Portela at the top of a hellish hill.
Yeah.
Go stay there, everyone.
And so on the Francais, you can often choose how far you're going to walk in the day. I mean, not exactly, obviously, but you can stop in this town or go 5 more K to the next one. Is that true on the Portuguese, or is it more laid out? You have to go this far because there's really nothing in between.
Most of the time on the Portuguese from Porto, you probably have to go the stages. You might find the odd albergue in between stages, and you will find some private ones as well, but they're not always open during the winter. So if you think you can't make it between stages and you are going to stay in between stages at these private places, do check if they're open or not in the winter, because I found a lot of them to be closed. And from Lisbon, like I said, you've often got to do 30, 28K days, 35K days. So if you are starting just cutting your pilgrim teeth, definitely not a good idea to start there.
Yeah, I mean, even for me, and I walk all the time, whether I'm on the Camino or not, 30K is a lot. And it's less once you've been at it for a week or two. You kind of build yourself up. But starting out with 30K days every day, that's definitely challenging.
Definitely, and that's the way you end up getting injuries as well, because you need to break your body in, as well as you're breaking your feet in. You need to break your body and your bones and your muscles in, and like you say, after a week, 30K will be quite manageable. But on the first couple of days, you don't want to be walking 30Ks if you don't have to.
Yeah, that's right. So is there one thing you do differently if you on your next Camino? I mean, especially for the Portugal, because you've maybe done it a couple of times now, but is there anything? And also, do they speak Spanish over there? Do they speak English?
The Portuguese speak fantastic English.
Okay.
I found whether they're young or whether they're seasoned, shall we say.
Said.
I found that most people do talk really, really good English, as well as the local language, which is Portuguese, which is very similar to Spanish in the way it's written, but not in the way it's spoken.
Right.
So I found myself able to understand a lot of what I read because I speak fluent Spanish, but and able to pick out a lot of the spoken Portuguese, but it's very, very different in its pronunciations. So yeah, that was so I would probably make sure I learned more Portuguese, to be honest with you. That was my only regret, really, that I wish I could have spoken more of the local language, because it is actually a very beautiful language. And if you hear the Portuguese from Brazil, I mean, it's like someone singing to you.
It's a song, yeah.
It's very, very nice.
And also it's really rich, isn't it, to be able to speak to the local people and to feel not just like you're passing through on top of it, but that you're actually involved and connecting with people who live in these little towns all along the way.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I found on my first couple of Caminos when I didn't speak Spanish, at times you do feel like a bit of an outsider. Now I am
Mhm.
fluent in Spanish. I mean, I will stop and I'll chat to the locals. You know, they'll just
Mhm.
like the British do. They like to chat about the weather, and you know they'll chat about anything really. The Spanish and the Portuguese are a lot bit more reserved compared to the Spanish, a bit more conservative. The Portuguese to me are a bit like the British Latinos. They can be quite, you know, insular, if that's the right word.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they take a little while to open up, but when they do,
Mhm.
they are lovely. But they're a bit more reserved than the Spanish,
Mhm.
and you do notice the difference when you cross the border as well.
Yeah.
But one thing I would do differently is probably walk slower
Uh-huh.
because when I've walked on my own, I've always gone quite fast, which is because it's
Yeah.
natural to me to want to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. But when
Yeah.
I've walked with my wife, I've definitely walked slower and started to take more in, connect a bit more. Um, Spend more time chatting to the locals, chatting to fellow pilgrims as well. And from
Yeah.
that respect, I've really got a lot more out of slowing down. And I think by slowing down, you actually amplify those positive effects
I
by
agree.
connecting with you know the sights, sounds, smells, and sensations. That to me is a very powerful form of meditation and mindfulness as well that I'm beginning to get more out of every time I do it. And like I've said before, every time I go back to the Camino, I think to myself, is it time to put this chapter of my life to bed?
Mm.
Is it time to move on? You know, is it time to find another hobby,
Mm.
passion, obsession? I've already got, this is my healthy one. My unhealthy one is my football team, but because they're terrible. But this is my, you know, my healthy obsession. But after 3 or 4 days, I find that passion becomes more intense than ever, and that
Mhm.
addiction intensifies as well.
Mhm.
So I think
I
it's it's
agree. I'm right
it's
there with you.
it's with me for life. This I'm a pilgrim for life,
Yeah.
and that's the end of it. So, and one
Yeah.
other thing I wouldn't do differently is on a few caminos, I've taken work with me, and I
Yeah.
haven't enjoyed it as much.
Yeah.
I've been learning because I work as a full time you know, a musician. I take lyrics with me sometimes or scripts or whatever because I've done some theatre work in the past, and it's just it's not the same. I wouldn't do it again. So I did
Yeah.
get asked by Audrey Lee, who's episode 18, lovely lady from Australia. She said about taking her work with her. I said, if you have to, you know, then any Camino is better than no Camino, but you'll get more out of it by not doing it
Mhm.
because it is a chance to step outside of your everyday life. But if you've got no choice, go do it and you'll still get some positive effects without doubt.
Absolutely. And I think that I think your whole idea of slowing down is so good too. There can become this feeling of like you're going somewhere. You're going to Santiago, but Santiago is not the point. The point is the being in the moment on the Camino and the getting there. So
Mm. Yeah,
yeah,
it's cheesy. It's not the destination,
it
it's the
really
journey.
isn't. Yeah,
And that's so true. You know,
yeah.
it might be often said and it may be overworn that statement, but never a true word has been spoken.
No, that's for sure. So Spanish food. I mean, you live now in Spain, so it's not like you crave tortilla española, but what would you say is something that you might recommend to people to try when they're on the Camino?
Okay, so when you're in Galicia, you have to try the caldo gallego, which is
Okay.
a broth. If you're vegetarian, then it's not going to be for you because it's got some chorizo in there. But yeah, I would say the caldo gallego is a really nice starters. If you're in Portugal, you have to try the pastiche de nata, which
Ah.
is the only thing I could liken it to. It's like a bit of a like a plastic. What am I talking about? Yeah, it sounds lovely. Let's get some plastic in us. No,
It's a
do
plastic.
you know what I fancy for dessert? A bit of plastic. Don't eat plastic. Recycle it. No, pastéis de nata. It's like a custard tart.
Mm.
It's got the top of it's glazed. It's got like it's pastry around the crust, and it is amazing. Absolutely. I don't really have a sweet tooth, but you look at these things and they're everywhere, and you think, what's all that about? Pastiche de nata. You must try them. That
All
is
right.
amazing. But believe me, once you have one, you're probably going to have two or three. So make sure you leave a bit of space.
Okay.
You need some. You need to have a pastis de nata department in your stomach because it is amazing.
So is there any little funny anecdote you'd like to share, or some wacky person that you've met that typifies somehow the Camino and the surprisingness of it all?
Right. Well, all I'm going to say is, like we said before, we go back to that albergue or hotel debates. Now, you won't meet these kind of people in the hotels most of the time. I haven't
Yeah.
personally. In the albergues, you meet them often. And that is the magic of staying in the public albergues as well
Yes.
sometimes. So that's another advantage I would say. But I mean, this time I think it dawned on me the advantage of walking slower as well because you do maximize contact with people and your likelihood to bump into funny characters or interesting characters, people with
Mhm.
stories. And, Rachel and I, we thought, oh, we need, it was one day, for example, we thought, we're going to walk a bit extra because on our second last day we had a choice. We could either walk 20k to Padron and have to walk 27k to Santiago the next day, or we could walk 28k that day and only walk 16 to Santiago or 18 to Santiago the next day. So we thought, oh, we need to rush a little bit, and because we've got to walk this 28k, so we got a shorter walk to Santiago. Anyway, long story short, we wondered if we should be stopping, and there was one place to stop, and I thought, oh, we need to keep pushing here because we've got 28k to do today. Anyway, Rachel twisted my arm into stopping for a coffee, so we popped into this place. I mentioned it in last week's podcast called O Pardal, and it's just between Caldas de Reis and Padron. And this cafe, the coffee was really, really good for a start. But there was like a tailless cat that was eating my cake, jumped on my lap and eating my cake. A one-eyed dog that had the same name as our dog back here, Perla.
Aw.
My dog's called Pearl. In Spanish, that's Perla. And
Mhm.
my dog is Pearl, named after Pearl Jam, the band.
Yeah, yeah.
Whoa, whoa, I'm still alive, all that business. And yeah, and just these, and then you go in to use their toilet, and it's the toilet of the actual family home. So you're walking past the
Aw.
grandma, you're walking past the grandma who's sat in the living room, you've got the baby rolling around on the floor. And this is just the magic of the Camino at work. I don't find anywhere else like that anywhere else in the world.
No,
It just
no.
doesn't exist. And that's just one example of the Camino magic. And another one is, like I remember being on the Camino Francés, and there was a gentleman, an elderly gentleman, sat on a bench in this town just before I got to Hospital de Orbigo
Mhm.
in Castilla y León. And I just sat on this bench, and this old man comes and sits next to me. He's got a pair of braces on and brown trousers, pink shirts, and you know what that is Spanish like. They just start talking at you, don't they? They just start talking at you. At
Mhm.
this point in my life, I didn't speak Spanish, so I kind of, pretended like I knew what he was saying. And, then all these pigeons come and start sitting down. They didn't come and sit with us, sorry, they flew in. And he just starts feeding the pigeons, getting this pigeon feed out of his pocket, and just, little magic moments like that. If you do stop, you do encounter them and absorb them, and they do enrich your experience along the way. And the old man, he's poking his finger into my arm, chatting at me non-stop. He knows that I can't understand what he's saying, but he didn't care. And these, to me, this is just the magic of the Camino at work. So,
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and
it is.
yeah, I mean, even meeting people like yourself and Peter and Jules, this is the magic of the Camino at work. And
Mhm.
and I don't meet people like you in Tiera in everyday life. If you could tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you came into contact with the Camino, that you are one of those colourful characters, I would say.
Well, I
They don't make many like you, love, I tell you.
yeah, I think people don't meet many like me anyway.
But
And
you only find
what I would
characters like you on the Camino, so
Yeah, you do. Well, and you know what I actually think a lot of it has to do with, Brad, is that people become more who they really are on the Camino because after, after walking day after day, you get too tired to put on airs, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can't be bothered with trying to prove things and making it look good because your feet hurt and you're tired and you just, you get down to the essentials of yourself. And I think that's what makes us all unique. And
Mm.
that's one of the things I do love about the Camino. And as you say, staying in the public albergues, because that is where you meet people.
That's a lovely way to put it. And I've said it before on the podcast that the Camino brings the best out of everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The real. Okay, most important word to know in Spanish.
It's got to be bocadillo, I think.
Bocadillo.
Because everywhere you go, you just see that word bocadillo, bocadillo, bocadillo. And when I was first, I was like,
What
what
the heck is
is
that?
that? And then you realise it means like a French bread baguette kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And everywhere makes them. And I think that was the only thing I could say when I first did the Camino Francés in the end. So I ended up just eating bocadillo after bocadillo. Yeah, bocadillo, jamón y queso. And that's all I could say at that point. And
And you
yeah.
ate. Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. I had about 4 of those a day. So, yeah, bocadillo. And also you hear the word aquí everywhere, don't you? Which obviously means here, por aquí, por aquí.
And then
So,
just the very simple buen camino. I said
Boy.
that to someone on my last Camino, and he looked at me confused. I'm like, that should be really obvious, even to someone who doesn't speak Spanish. But it wasn't obvious to him, so I had to tell him what I was saying.
And on the Camino Portuguese, that becomes bom caminho.
Bon camino.
Beautiful,
That's
bom
right.
caminho, bom caminho. Yeah, love that.
Yeah, love that too.
Do you know what?
Okay.
I think on the last Camino, the second last day, I counted 7. I got 17 buen caminos.
Nice.
Always lights up your day.
Nice. Okay, hardest part of the Camino.
Finishing, without a doubt.
Yeah, without
It's
a doubt.
finishing. I feel like that's one thing I would do differently is on my next Camino, I'm going to ease myself back into everyday life because the day I got back from my Camino, I went to work.
Yeah.
I got back.
Talk
We've
to the system.
left Santiago at 7 in the morning, got home about 11 o'clock in the morning, and 10 o'clock at night, I was back on stage. And yeah, it was silly. And, I think a bit of time for reflection is really important after your Camino because I tend to make Camino resolutions. Like you make New Year resolutions. I make Camino resolutions. So what am I going to do differently in this new version of myself? Because I always learn something about myself, no matter what I do on a Camino. No matter how many times I do it, I always learn something about myself by taking that time out. And my resolution this time was to get rid of my smartphone.
Wow.
And that's what I'm going to do. Haven't done it yet because, like I said, I've just gone from being a pilgrim to straight back to work, and it's been tough because there was all manner of things I've had to deal with since I've come home. That's the hardest part. You go from just the blissful 8 hours outside listening to waterfalls and walking alongside rivers and walking through forests and just, inhaling all the scents and, enjoying all the sounds and sights. And then the next thing you know, your phone's back on again. And I just learned that I don't need the internet in my pocket. I just don't. I just don't need it. Just don't need the internet in my pocket. And the curious part of us always wants to check something. Let's just check. It's bloody tiring. And that switch task residue between checking your Facebook, to checking your Instagram, to checking your emails, to checking your messages, to checking your WhatsApps, it's so tiring. And I found myself so energized by not doing that during my Camino. And that's why I don't have my mobile phone switched on.
Nice.
So, yeah, that's my answer to that one. Camino resolutions, ease yourself back into work, even if it's just 24 hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do have it earmarked on my list of things to do to get a dumb phone for the new year.
Well, I disagree with you on the whole technology thing, but I think there are a lot of people that would really speak to, and so
Yeah, no,
that's a
tell me
good
why you disagree.
perspective.
I'm
Yeah.
intrigued. I'm intrigued why you disagree. I'm open to reasons why
Well, I
you
don't
disagree.
disagree on your behalf. It's just for me. But you see, I have a very different life. I don't have a home, so without my phone, I don't have connection to my friends. It's actually the thing that connects me all the time to everything, everywhere. And if I don't have that, I'm just really quite alone wherever I am. So to me, it's the thing that is a great pleasure that I can, be all by myself in Madrid and feeling kind of lonely and be able to call someone in New York, and
Mm.
just have a chat and that kind of thing, or have the delight of taking some photo and putting it on Facebook and then having people respond to it. It helps me to feel connected to the world and to, my home is everywhere and nowhere at this point. So,
Mm.
but I think there's a lot of people who are really addicted to their phones, and it creates an isolation for them, which is kind of the opposite of how I feel about it. And so that not having that to check into, but rather, looking at the scenery and talking to the person that's next to you, or, the person who's just served you your bocadilla, instead of being too connected into that. I think that's really valid for a lot of people
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I mean, you've definitely mentioned the positives and the negatives there of technology and mobile phones, and maybe you're right. Maybe if I didn't live a peripatetic lifestyle like you do, then that phone would be imperative and
Hmm.
absolutely essential. But in everyday life, the way I live it, where I do have a home
Yeah,
um, and I can just come home and get connected on my laptop, um, and
exactly.
and
Exactly.
I might lose a bit of work every now and again, but because in my business it's very competitive and you have to strike while the iron's hot. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the advantage of just the clearer state of mind is more important to me than that extra money in a way. I'm
Hmm.
not materialistic. I'm not money motivated. So
Hmm.
maybe if I was, but thanks for that other side of the fence there.
And would you say one of the best parts of the Camino for you is that being able to disengage from all of that
Hundred
kind of
percent.
fast-paced
Hundred
go go
percent.
go? Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Just I feel, the best part of the Camino I think is that we push the reset button,
Hmm.
and once we push the reset button, we, like we do on our computers, as I've said before, the computer runs more efficiently, and so does that,
Yeah,
so do our
exactly.
bodies, and the circadian rhythms as well, the synchronization of
Yeah,
circadian
rhythm.
rhythms,
Yeah.
waking up with sunset, sorry, waking up with sunrise, going to bed not long after sunset. This is what our bodies are designed for. In essence, we are still cavemen and cave women. This is how our bodies have evolved. We are not our biologically, our bodies don't know what to do with this technology that we've got, because we haven't evolved to use it. Now, maybe in 1,000 years' time, our bodies will have evolved and we'll have some kind of onboard computers on onboard computer, kind of chip in our brain or something where we don't even have to carry a phone. I don't know. But our bodies at this moment in time have not evolved to use technology as much as we use it, and the constant hits of dopamine that we get from the notifications. I don't think it's healthy for us. And this might be a controversial statement, and I could be talking nonsense, but it wouldn't surprise me if in 50 years' time that we find out that mobile phones are this generation's smoking cigarettes. I could be talking nonsense, but I just don't
Well,
think it's.
I've noticed that it seems to be stronger for some people than others.
Mm,
Like I know a lot of people that would agree with you, and I see them being really negatively impacted. So I think that some people's bodies are really super super sensitive to these kind of things,
mm,
and that it's important for people who are really sensitive to take note of it, because I think the biggest thing about people in their bodies is that they're not paying much attention to them at all. And that's another thing I think that the Camino gives us, is you really have to pay attention to your body, because it's the only way you're going to get to the next town.
I mean, I couldn't agree with that anymore, Tiera. The listening to your body, and all I can say is I've done that. I've disconnected from my mobile, and I know how much better I feel. Even, you know what? Even if it's just I go for lunch with Rachel, my wife, and I say to Rachel, "Turn my phone off. Put it in your bag, please. I don't want to hear from it." And even just that hour that we sat there and had lunch, I feel better after that.
Yeah.
And just, I think it's the immersion in one task and the mindfulness of doing that. I think it is a form of meditation, even just focusing fully, doing some deep work for 45 minutes. To me, that is a form of meditation, and the mobile phone disconnects me from that. So I know the majority of people will disagree with me, and I don't blame them for that, because it has become so important for everyday life. But I'm weaning myself off mine.
Well, I applaud you, because it sounds like it's something that isn't that healthy for you. And
No, not for me, but I appreciate why it's important for you as well. And if I did live that kind of lifestyle, then maybe I would definitely want to do that. I can understand why and how it can be very advantageous. But yeah,
so there's probably not any certain apps that you use. You just go you probably have a guidebook if you don't know the trail already, or
exactly. Yeah.
Nice. So if someone's thinking of doing the Camino, but they're not sure and they have all these concerns and they're a little scared or uncertain, what would you say to them?
I would say that the Camino, the Camino, it amplifies parts of life that you would normally take for granted. And if anything, it's going to make you appreciate your life even more when you come home. And that's, in some ways, one reason to do it. It will make you appreciate your life more when you come home. And things that you, like I said, take for granted, you'll now think are some amazing little pleasure. Eating lunch slumped against a wall, the stump of a shady tree, that ordinarily you wouldn't think that's something special. But when you've walked 20 kilometers, 25 kilometers, and you sit your bum down for the first time in 4 or 5 hours, it's amazing. The quirky characters you meet, they're all it's a life-changing experience. The deep, meaningful chats with people, the scenery, the towns, the cities, everything you see, the sunsets and the sunrises that you wouldn't ordinarily see, the little buzz of excitement when you see a yellow arrow, if you think you're lost, when you see that cafe sign up ahead, when you've been walking for 25 kilometers, you're like, you might be walking through your city, you're like, oh, there's a Starbucks, I'll go and have a coffee, because you're bored. And on the Camino, you're walking through a forest and you see this little village up ahead and some cafe sign, and you're like, hallelujah. All those little pleasures, this is just something that all those little pleasures are amplified, and to me everything becomes magical, and that's one reason to walk it. And just saying hola or buen camino to strangers, the release of inner peace you get from saying that. Food you wouldn't normally eat, food you'd normally leave out for raccoons tasting like a gourmet meal. Cat food becomes caviar. The relief of kicking your boots off at the end of the day and putting your flip-flops on and getting a fresh air pedicure. All these little things become absolute immense pleasures, and pushing through the pain barrier, breaking physical, mental boundaries that you thought were initially beyond you. Being on the Camino is going to make you feel better about yourself than ever, stronger, wiser, free from all forms of mental self-harm. That's because my mind plays tricks on me from time to time, and I know I know my mind better than ever now, and the tricks and darkness and the anxious episodes that I can have when I'm on the Camino, they tend to go away. And
Nice.
and you know, that's, I think, what's really important. Camino de Santiago, I love you. Go do it, everyone.
Sweet. Thanks, Brad. Thanks for sharing all of that.
And thank you very much, Tiera, for being the guest host. I'd love to have you back on again sometime soon. I know you are here, there, and everywhere, as the Beatles once sang. Here, there, and everywhere you go. Lovely song. Random tangent there, but yeah, I'd love to have you back on as a guest host as well, because I think, you know, you definitely know your Camino onions. You are the Camino black belt, and yeah, if you'd like to do that, we'll definitely make that happen.
Love that.
Tiera, I've been lucky enough to have an hour of your time today, and I know you're in Madrid, so you've probably got a lot of sightseeing to go out and do, and I know you're cat sitting, so you might have some cats to feed.
Yep.
So thank you so much for being our guest host, and we'll have you back on as soon as possible.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks
Really
for interviewing me. Lovely chatting to you.
Pleasure.
And let's just say this: Happy New Year, Tiera.
Happy New Year, Brad.
And no episode is complete without saying Buen Camino, fellow peregrina.
Buen Camino, peregrino.
Wanderer, a life adventurer, said he's a